Okay, today we're going to talk about frame assembly, the importance of frames being square, and that is so important. When we talk about bee space, you know, that's 3/8 and 1/4 of an inch. And anytime we violate that, the bees are going to either fill that space with propolis, burr comb, or brace comb. Burr comb is just comb built out anywhere, and usually on the outer cover or something where they lay eggs in it, or on the bottom of the frames. And brace comb is usually built in between the end bars and the box, and it makes it difficult to get out. Sometimes the top bars and the box, they will build brace comb in there. But what we're wanting to do, when we get all of our 10 frames assembled and glued, and gluing is so important, you've got to glue your frames. I'm going to wire one for you here in a minute too. We want all of these frames to be the same space when we get them assembled, and that's what these are. If they're not, we're giving the bees something extra to do they shouldn't be doing, and we don't want to do that. So if you can see these are all equally spaced. This is what the bottom should look like. The top bars will space themselves. The end bars are set up so when they push them together, the space is perfect in between the top bars. But as far as squaring them up, we need to square them this way. We need to square them this way. This needs to be perpendicular to the bottom bar the frame does. And we don't want it slanted. And when you measure it, your diagonals will be the same across. Let me get a tape measure here. We'll measure these, and you can go from the end. Any point that you measure on this side, measure on the other side. That says 20 inches. These are deep frames. And that says 20 inches on the money. So we know the diagonal, everything is square. You can buy this is called a Thompson Speed Square, a framing square. You can buy one of them and use them and see how square that is on both of them if you want to do that. And you need to do the same when you're assembling your boxes as well. We'll do a box assembly here eventually. But this is what we want to look like. If you use an assembly jig, you'll have to turn them upside down and make sure after you take them out of the jig that everything is square. I use a Titebond 2 because it takes it an hour or two to set up and gives you time to adjust these, push them back and forth, move them around, and then you can go ahead and nail them. Once you get them all square, you can go ahead and nail them. And I'm going to assemble one here in a minute and show you how to properly glue and nail the frames, and then we're going to wire one. But once again, if you do not make your frame square, you're giving your bees something to do they should not be doing. This is, like I said, Titebond 2. It lasts a little longer, and it's longer to set up. Titebond 3 is a little more waterproof, but it will set up in 30 minutes. And I mean set up hard where you don't get any adjustment. With this, you'll get some adjustment. Now, this is a glue brush. You can use these little chip brushes if you want to, but I recommend brushing the glue because it gets into the pores of the woods and makes it stronger. If you don't glue these things, what's going to happen? You're going to get out there one day after the comb is drawn and they got lots of propolis on here and burr comb in there. Even though you've got a couple of nails in right here, you go to prying on these to get them out, and you're going to pull the top bar away from the side bars. When you do that, you've got a major effort ahead of you. You're going to stress the bees. You're going to create a situation that is totally unnecessary, and it's going to take a lot of work to get that frame out. It may even come to the point where you've got to turn the box upside down and push it out from the bottom. Hopefully you won't have to do that. And you won't if you glue these. So I always start with the top bar first. On the sides of the top bar, you'll find the little groove that the end bars are going in. We're going to put a little glue in there on both ends and both sides. All right, we've got glue there. Now we're going to take the end bars and we're going to paint glue down in here too. This is important. And it doesn't hurt if you get a little squeeze out. That's fine. It won't bother the bees at all. This glue is non-toxic. Most wood glue is just vinyl anyway. That's what it's about. It works very well. And like I said, brushing down in here creates the pores being filled. It works a lot better. Then I take the top bar, or the end bar, and push it down on the top bar like this. And we're ready to go right there. Now, before I do any nailing, we're going to put the bottom bar in as well. Each bottom bar on the end, sometimes there'll be, for a groove bottom bar, you'll have 3 spaces here instead of 1, or 2 spaces instead of 1. That's fine. Doesn't make much difference. And on the bottom bar, once again, we're going to put glue on both sides of it. We're going to make sure, and I also put glue right here on the end, as well as on these little grooves on the side, the slots. Okay, we got that done. Sometimes these fit pretty tight, sometimes they go right in. It doesn't really matter. Now that we've got this done, we're going to push on both ends and push it in tight, and we're going to drive one of these brads down in there to hold this in. The bottom bar doesn't have as much stress on it. At the top bar, you can put 1 nail in there and get away with it. You can put 2 if you want. That's up to you. I like the long brads that they give you with the frames when you buy them. Now we're going to turn it this way, and we're going to put 2 nails on each end bar right here. And I'm going to actually angle one slightly, not a lot, because we want our nails to go in at an angle, and it makes them stronger. They bite better into the wood that way. If you take your eye off the nail, that's what happens. And you'll notice these brads that you get with your frames, most of them are coated with a green coating, and that is actually a glue. As we drive this down in there, the friction that is created from driving this nail heats the glue up on the nail and helps the nail sit and hold better. Once again, you got to keep your eye on it. Now we're going to check both sides, make sure our nails didn't pop through. If they do pop through where they're going to interfere with the foundation, I'll push them back out and pull them out and drive another one. But generally they're not going to interfere. And this one's peeking through a little bit, so I'll just flatten it out there and it's fine. Now I'm going to drive one more nail, and we're going to drive it in here. This is going to really help secure this. There we go. Now, everything is together on that. I'm going to take my square, check it out. The bar's a little tilted. I'm going to manipulate it, pull it a little bit. That one's good. Go down here and check this one. That one's nice. We can see everything looks square. We want to look down this way too, to make sure this end bar and this end bar are parallel with each other this way. In other words, we want them in the same plane. We don't want one leaning this way and one leaning that way. And we'll measure, make sure our diagonals are straight, or the same, and we should be good to go. That's 20 inches. And that's 20 inches. As you assemble these, set them up like this like I had these down here, take a couple, set them up, and look at them and make sure your spacing is the same. See how this all looks the same? And you look down through here and your end bars are the same. They're not tilted one way or another. Everything's good to go on these. The bees won't spend their time trying to fill them in. I personally use air staples in mine. It's faster. I do 200 or 300 at a time. But the nails, as a hobbyist, and you want to assemble your own frames, and you'll learn when you assemble your frames. You learn about bees, you learn about the equipment, you learn about bee space, and what to do and what, excuse me, what not to do.